Beautiful music, Phil. Thank you for picking those out. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. You are with us for our 160th Sunday gathering. Each week, trying to put a smile on your face. We join the two worlds, letting you know the afterlife is very real and your life is so important. So, if we can give you that little shot in the arm of inspiration and courage and all those good things, we're going to do it. So I'm joined here today with my wonderful friends, Kerry McLeod, Phil Dykes, and Darren Wynn. And I'm going to pass it over to Phil, who has created our theme for today, and let him share a little bit more. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you for that wonderful, warm welcome, Sandra. It's always a pleasure to be the chairperson of the Sunday Gathering and to organise the music and look for something a little bit different and a little bit special. But I think you will all agree with me that there is something so strong that is inside all of us. And all we have to do is open a door, such as this one, the Sunday Gathering, because this week it is 160 Sunday gatherings that four friends have come together to really present to you, to have a little bit of fun, to bring inspiration, and to speak a truth as well. And today's truth is spirituality. That thing that we can't really describe, but I'll come back to that in a little bit because all four of us will be talking about it today. So we have the wonderful Darren Wynn, who's going to be opening and closing, but also doing the healing as well, because that voice that he has carries and it leads you into what we call that golden space. Just as that lady sung within the lyrics, there's something so gold that's gold inside us. We find that every time we go into that healing. Sandra's going to be doing one of her wonderful chosen readings as well, and we all love her voice because we just get pulled into that story, so it's absolutely wonderful. As I said, the address is being done by all of us, and myself and Kerry will be doing the mediumship, and I'll be giving you those wonderful words of the week to go into the week to be inspired by as well. So welcome to the Sunday Gathering. Sit back, enjoy, love every second of it. Put your heart and soul into it, because I know us four will do as well. And without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Darren.
Thank you for that wonderful intro, Phil, and those very, very kind words. I'll pay you later. But welcome to all of you, our 160th gathering. Who would have believed it, all these weeks? So rather than hear me rabbit on, if you'd all like to close your eyes and join me for today's opening prayer. We unite here together today as friends, brothers and sisters under that banner of We Don't Die. As we unite here together today as one, we do so in love, peace and harmony, so that all those in the world we call unseen can join together with us today on this journey for our Sunday gathering. As we unite here together today, we do so from different countries within our land. We do so speaking different languages and having different dialects. We do so having different backgrounds and different understandings, but today we unite here in the name of love, for the love of the joining together of the two worlds as one. As we join together here today, we cast aside our own needs, our own wants, and our own desires, and we come together as one to be in service in any way we can for the good of all of mankind. And as we enter into this Sunday gathering, we do so with no demands or no expectations, but allow our workers here today to be a channel for those in the unseen world, to share their words and their thoughts for all ears here today, to bring us those moments of joy, healing, happiness, and allow us to immerse ourselves in the unconditional love and the healing balm of that of the unseen world. Each and every one of us deems it a joy and a privilege to work on behalf of the unseen world and to work with the unseen world, walking together hand in hand, side by side. And each and every one of us will do this to the best of our ability and the best of our understanding. And we truly hope we can make you proud here today. And as always, we open this Sunday gathering with smiles upon our faces, positivity within our minds, and an abundance of love within our hearts, so that we can create that perfect meeting ground for all. And we ask as always that that healing balm continues to emanate to all four corners of our lands, bringing joy and happiness to all those hearts and minds and that may be in need at this time. So without further ado, my friends, we welcome you here today. Amen.
Thank you so much, Darren. His words are like butter, aren't they? Well, I have a confession to make. I had to look up spirituality in the dictionary. What, you say? That's crazy. We all know what spirituality is. I think spirituality means different things to different people. Last Sunday, if you were here for our Easter Sunday service, our theme was faith. And when Phil said spirituality for this week, I thought, because I'm someone who would always claim I'm spiritual, but not religious. So kind of like spirituality was a different kind of religion. So I looked it up in the dictionary and I had this aha moment. In the dictionary, it says spirituality is the quality of being concerned with the human spirit or soul of another, as opposed to material or physical things. So that spirituality word brought on a whole new meaning to me. So I know there's plenty of things included and we're all going to share in the address, but I want to tell you a story about spirituality. Whether it is our good thoughts, actions, or behaviors, sooner or later, being spiritual with another can and just may have some extraordinary results for you. So this is a true story. It happened in 1982 at Stanford University in California. An 18-year-old student and a friend were struggling to pay school fees. He was an orphan, and not knowing where to turn for money, he came up with a bright idea. His friend and he decided to host a musical concert on campus to raise money. They would apply the earnings from the event to offset their unpaid board and tuition. They reached out to the great pianist Ignacy Paderewski. His manager demanded a guarantee fee of $2,000 for the piano recital. A deal was struck, and the boys began to work to make the concert a success. The big day arrived. Paderewski performed at Stanford, but unfortunately, the boys had not managed to sell enough tickets. The total collection was only $1,600. After the concert, the two boys told the great artist the bad news. They gave him the entire $1,600 along with a promissory note for $400, explaining that they would earn the amount at the earliest possible moment and send the money to him. It looked like the end of their college careers. "No, boys," replied Paderewski, "that won't do." Then, tearing the note in two, he returned the money to them as well. "Now," he told them, "I want you to take out of this $1,600 all of your expenses and then keep for each of you 10% of the balance for your work and your schooling. And then let me have the rest." The boys were surprised and thanked him profusely, but it was a small act of kindness. But it clearly marked out Paderewski as being a great human being. 20 years rolled by. World War I came and went. Paderewski, now Prime Minister of Poland, was striving to feed thousands of starving people in his native land. He was a great leader, but unfortunately, at the end of the World War, Poland was ravaged. There were more than 1.5 million starving people in his country and no money to feed them. Paderewski reached out to the U.S. Food and Relief Administration for help. The head there was a man named Herbert Hoover, who would later go on to become the U.S. president. Hoover agreed to help and quickly shipped tons of food grains to feed the starving Polish people. A calamity was averted. Paderewski decided to go and meet Hoover and personally thank him. When Paderewski began to thank Hoover for his noble gesture, Hoover quickly interjected and said, You shouldn't be thanking me, Mr. Prime Minister. You may not remember this, but many years ago, you helped 2 young students go through college. I was one of them. It is one of the most beautiful compensations of a spiritual life that no man can sincerely try to help another without helping himself. So, goodness has a way of coming back. That is the nature of the beast. That is spirituality. One doesn't have to do good deeds for a return. It just happens. And then, in the words of Ralph Waldo Emerson, one of the most beautiful compensations in life is that no man can help another without also helping himself. Thank you. Over to you, Darren.
Thank you for that wonderful reading, Sandra. I'm now going to take you into the healing, and a perfect song has been chosen for that. Sums up healing, I think, for me. So well chosen song, Phil. Make Me a Channel of Your Peace by the wonderful singer Katherine Jenkins, who's also one of my favourites. But I thought it's a perfect song that kind of summarizes spirituality, you know, and it's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to make ourselves that channel for that healing power to spread throughout our world. And we're going to do what's the words of the song talk about, you know. So what you're going to do short, you're going to close your eyes and join us all as we come together as one to send out that healing power to wherever it may be needed in today's world. And if you listen to some of the words within the song, it talks about sending love to where there's hate. That's what we're going to do. We're going to send love to where there's hate within the world. We're going to send hope to where there's despair. We're going to send joy to where there's sadness. And we're going to send the light to where there's darkness. So if you'd like to close your eyes and focus on those things, and let's send out the joy, the love, and the light.
Thank you very much for that reading, Sandra. We looked at the meaning of spirituality up in the dictionary. I've got a sneaky feeling Phil's going to say a little bit more about that in just one moment. But it is intriguing, isn't it? Spirituality. It means something different to everyone. And throughout the week, my mind has been moving over what is spirituality. And there's something else that intrigues me that is very much like concern, as the dictionary speaks about, and it's altruism. Now, many of you may not be very familiar with what altruism is. It is a voluntary, costly behavior motivated by the desire to help another. So it's something we do that we get nothing in return, and perhaps even suffer in some way. Now, there are very large altruistic actions that people can do. There are people all over the world that donate a kidney to a complete stranger. There are millions of people across our world that donate blood to be used within their country for different parts of medical practices. And then there are people who volunteer their time, who go out of their way to save somebody. There were videos that I was watching earlier in the week. In fact, it was last week before Phil actually chose this topic. And it showed somebody stopping on the freeway to help another person that was stuck in the outside lane. There are incredible things that people do that are altruistic. So it got me wondering, what's the difference between spirituality and a concern for another person and altruism? Well, actually, there's a little bit of science here. Not too much that it will blind you and I, but there's a little bit of science here. There's a part of the brain called the amygdala. I had to write that down. The amygdala. And in people who are the opposite of altruists, they are called psychopaths. I'll say that very, very quickly. The amygdala is very small. In fact, it's almost non-existent. But if we go to the other part of the spectrum, And the altruistic people who have, say, given a kidney to somebody, or who do on a regular basis acts of kindness for another person at cost to themselves, their amygdala is more pronounced than the average person. So it got me wondering, is there any correlation between being altruistic and having a level of spirituality? Well, I didn't find an answer to that. So it's open to debate, and debate, anybody that knows me knows I love a good debate. So if it's the altruism is not for the person's own gain, then spirituality is concern for another person. Now, I might be a little bit controversial here, but I wonder if you know somebody who is spiritual and unkind. Your answer might be yes. So that would mean that spirituality and altruism might be separate. But I wonder if you're naturally altruistic, you naturally have a very spiritual quality about you. But if you call yourself spiritual, that doesn't mean that you're going to do a deed for somebody else that causes you discomfort but benefits another. I wonder if we're all moving towards that place of being spiritual. My question is, how will we recognize it? Is it when we have concern for others? Is it when we do a good deed for another? Is it when we don't stop and think about helping another? Is it when we can actually follow our human instinct, which is to help? Humankind helps one another in distressful times. Humankind helps one another when there is disaster. We naturally reach out and want to do better. We believe that's why we have the healing moment. So I wonder if we move to being more altruistic, we naturally will become more spiritual. But in order to be more kind, perhaps that's a different journey, but I do believe it's still linked to spirituality.
Some words for thought there, isn't there? Especially that bit about being unkind at times. It makes you really think, doesn't it? And maybe I may be able to shed a little bit of light on that. But ladies and gentlemen, I had a little bit of chuckle when Sandra mentioned about looking at the dictionary to find out what spirituality is, because, not laughing at her, laughing with her, because I did the same. Because as I brought the theme together, I have my own understanding of what spirituality is. And when I discussed it with Kerry, she said something completely different. And it got me thinking. And I thought for a while, I could not find the words what will describe what spirituality is all about. So I picked up my phone and texted a few friends, 27 in total. And I got back 27 different answers. I was not surprised, because I realized that at that point, when I started to read one or two, that people were struggling to describe what spirituality was, but they had an understanding of what it was. So I then started to research Google, and I started to watch YouTube. And there was a line that I listened to, that spirituality is not something that you can know intellectually. Then all of a sudden, the pennies dropped. All of a sudden, it was like, it's what it means to us. And it's where it, or should I say, it is where you are in your journey. Because if somebody's unkind, doesn't mean they're not spiritual. They may not have developed a lot of empathy. They might not have got morals or ethics. They might be young in life. It doesn't mean that I'm saying that everyone that's young is unkind or doesn't know what spirituality is or doesn't know how to behave. As Kerry said, we're all brought up in different ways. Life teaches us lessons. As we go through life, I think we learn what spirituality is for ourselves. And it depends on what we've gone through and where we are. Right now, we'll have a different meaning what spirituality is. Because when we think about it, our thoughts today shape tomorrow. What reality is today, we have an intellect, we have an imagination, and we reflect. So tomorrow is going to be a version of those answers from today. And it got me thinking, as a medium, what is spirituality? And I hear some tutors talk about, well, I have a guide that teaches me spirituality and different things. And that got me thinking as well, that along that journey through life, where we are and what we go through, we pick up. So maybe that tutorage, that teaching is taking place. But it got me thinking, for 25 years as working as a medium, that I've delivered contacts. And through those contacts, I've seen life through many people's eyes. And then it hit me what spirituality is. It's having understanding somebody else's perception and listening. It's having empathy of what they've gone through. It's knowing their ethics, their morals, knowing that their journey, what they've completely got to at that point in their life, and that's their understanding. So sometimes we may get things wrong. Sometimes we may say an untruth. Sometimes we may do something that we've not fully thought through, and it affects somebody else. So we have to change those words of unkind to not knowing any better at that moment. It was when I met a gentleman many years ago, when I was walking to take a Sunday service, very much like this one, within a spiritualist church, where I met a gentleman who, he said he was waiting for me. I hadn't got to the church, okay? Actually, if I'm honest, I was a few minutes late for the church because of this gentleman, which never goes down well, because we always want to be punctual. But this gentleman said to me, Philip, I've been waiting for you for such a long time. And I thought, oh, somebody knows me. And I thought, oh, I do apologize, I don't know you. And he said, no, I've been told by the spirit world I need to pass this on. And I thought to myself, okay. So he passed it on. It's probably one of the most insightful readings and most accurate readings I've had in my life. But at the end is what got me. He says, you can thank me one day in the way that you want to. And as I turned to look who else was there to say, wow, have I just experienced it? As I turned back, he'd gone. He was a few hundred yards down the road. And I never got to say thank you. But then I thought to myself, actually, it's not about voicing the words of thank you to him. It's about sharing that story through his act of kindness and his understanding and his service to the spirit world. And I've got to be honest, as we think of mediums today, you don't think of somebody that looks a little bit disheveled or somebody that hasn't got a lot of money and doesn't look like they've cleaned themselves in a good while. But actually, he gave me details that you cannot find, full names and addresses, locations, that is just unbelievable. But the words he shared with me that day have always stuck with me. And I've met him several times on my journeys, never planned, just bumped into him. He never walks in a church, he's just on his journey. And his journey is about kindness, about sharing things with people as he meets them. And people share things with him. They buy him lunch and cups of tea and different things. So, ladies and gentlemen, spirituality is what you're made of. It is your truth. It is your truism. It is what you're all about. It is what you exhale. It is what you internalize. It is everything about you. And if we're true to ourselves, our lights shine brightly for others to see and inspire. So that little dictionary excerpt that Sandra mentioned before about the concern of the human spirit and soul actually goes far deeper than that, doesn't it? Because it's actually a concern, is a third-party thing. What we experience as spirituality is personal, is deep-seated within us. It's a knowledge, it's an understanding that there's no words that can explain, but it's a truth. And your light shows that truth. Thank you for listening. I'll pass over to Darren.
Thank you for that. Do you know what? It's like a confession session on here today, because I also looked up what spirituality was. When Phil gave us the theme of spirituality, obviously the first thing you do is go and look it up. And it wasn't through not knowing what it was. It was, how can you put it into words, I suppose, is the way that I struggled. I've got my own understanding and interpretation of what spirituality is, the same as all of you guys have. But when you try to put it into a brief word or description, it's really difficult. And like Phil said, he's messaged what 27 friends, and they all come. I mean, if I'd have got that message, I thought, oh my God, how would I even begin to try and reply to this message? Because you want to try and encapsulate it in a small phrase or small meaning. But I found it difficult. And I did the same as you guys. I started looking around and trying to find how would you summarize spirituality? And I kind of come to the conclusion, you hear the word spirituality mentioned so many times in many different religions, and you don't even have to be religious to be spiritual. And I came to the conclusion, I thought, you know what, it's what we as individuals deem spirituality to be. And for me, it's a way of life. And I was trying to think of ways of how I would describe spirituality. And I think for me, you have to have a belief, whether that's a belief in yourself, a belief in others, or belief in the afterlife. But I think you have to have some kind of belief. Love, ultimately, you have to have love there. Love for yourself. You know, sometimes people talk about loving yourself and you think, oh, behave yourself, get away with you. But do you know what? Sometimes you do have to love yourself. You know, I believe spirituality starts with self. It starts with you, starts with us, starts with me. And I try to be as spiritual as I can be. But you have to love others. You know, love what's around you. Sometimes it can be hard. And when I talk about the things I'm talking about now, some of you may be thinking, oh, that's quite hard. And I'm totally there with you. Sometimes it can be so hard to live these behaviors and these values. You know, you have to have compassion for others, understanding, you know, when people are going through tough times, hard times, you know, we need to understand that and be there and, you know, help these people, no matter what it is. And I know I can't even begin to describe the word Kerry mentioned, but we have to have concern of welfare for others, animals, nature. And you know what's, and I know, speaking to a lot of you and speaking from the heart, we're all like that. You know, we have concern for others. We have concern for animals. I know Sandra's got all the concern for the birds, always making sure the birds don't go hungry. You know, we've all got animals, I'm sure, within our house, you know, that we love, adore and cherish. And we would never want to see any harm come to them. But it's also concern for nature. You know, it's not just about us as human beings or the animal kingdom, but it's about nature as well. You know, you probably hear all across the news about the damage we're doing as a species, I suppose, to our world, the pollution, all that kind of stuff. You know, we have to have a concern for that. And wisdom was one of the biggest ones, you know, and you just get that from living, I think. You know, we all have experiences through our lives. We all make mistakes through our lives, but you learn from that, and that gives you wisdom. Talking and listening to other people, you know, and I hate to say it, but the elders have lived a life. You know, they can tell us good and bad, what to do, what not to do. You can take it on board, you may not, but the amount of wisdom they've got, you know, sit and listen to an elder talk, you know, teaching you about how they've lived their life. That's, you know, that's priceless. And being truthful, you know, I find that's a big thing, and it can be a hard thing for people, but being true to yourself and being true to others. Why live a lie? You know, there's nothing worse or more tedious than trying to live a lie. But it's how you deal with that truth. You know, we may have things, sometimes it can be hard to be true to somebody, but it's the way you do that. And that's, yeah, I suppose where the compassion and all that comes into it. And you have to have belief in yourself. How many times, we all do it, we all doubt ourselves, we can't do this, we can't do that. But you have to truly, you know, you have belief in others. You believe, you know, others can do amazing things. Why can't you believe yourself can do that as well? Whatever it may be. You have to be generous, you know, and I'm not talking about monetary generous. I'm talking about of your time, you know, being there to help others, support others, listen to people. And these are the kind of things that I came up with for spirit, you know, being a spiritual person. And like I said, I try to live by all these things I've spoken about day in and day out. But it's hard. It can be very hard because our emotions can take over. And I know when we see things going on in the world, you know, we see what's going on in Ukraine and Sudan and all different places. And we're human. and I get angry, I get really up about it. But actually what we need to do is take that step back. We need to reflect and send, like we've done with the healing just now, rather than send that hatred or that anger. There's already enough of that in the world. We need to be, and that's the biggest lesson I found hard. And I remember speaking to someone from the unseen world in a trance session once, and something had happened, some big disaster had happened. And and we was like, how can people be like that? That's so wrong. That's, our emotions took over. And they came back and said to us, and it took me a while to digest it, but I thought it's so right. There's hatred going on throughout the world as we speak now. But if we add to that hatred, how are we benefiting mankind? We're not. As hard as it can be, we need to send the love and the light to wherever there's hatred within this world. And I know it can be hard. But sometimes I think for me, myself personally, if I need to deal with a situation that is challenging or is quite emotional, sometimes I have to take that step back, take myself away from that situation, compose myself, and try and go in with a more spiritual manner, a more spiritual frame of mind. But yeah, like I said, it can be hard. But for me personally, if I was to sum up spirituality, I would say it's a way of life. It's unique to each and every one of us. And we all try to do the best we can. We all say we're spiritual people. And I believe we are. On the whole, we are. But nobody on this world, and like Kerry, you can challenge me, but I don't believe anyone on this world is 100% spiritual. The intentions, absolutely, 100% intentions. But I don't believe everyone on this planet is 100% spiritual. We do the best we can, and we try to be as spiritual as we can. But my belief, if it starts with us, it's how you believe you should be as a spiritual person. So I'm now going to hand you to Sandra.
Thanks so much. You cracked me up when you said it's like a confessional. We all looked up the word, and I'm going to confess right now, I have turned into a crazy bird lady. So there's my confession. Saying that, I love all of our takes on spirituality. And I found a quote this morning I want to read to you because it goes right along with what everyone's saying. Don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive, and then go and do that, because what the world needs is people who have come alive. And I think that touches in with spirituality. When I look at my friends, Kerry, Phil, and Darren here, and of course, when I get to see you guys online, what is it that I love about you? It could be a sharp dresser, looking pretty, nice lipstick, good shirt on, whatever. No, it's not that. It is the essence of the person, the spirit of the person. I was right there when my dad took his last breath, and I saw a body lying there, and there was no dad left in there. That spirit, that essence, that person I knew him to be. So grateful that he lives on. But it's not the body. It's that spirit. And I'm glad we all looked up the definition, because really, truly, I always had it as spiritual people had some belief in the divine, right? They just weren't religious. I really thought that's what spirituality meant. And so looking back in my life, never thinking I was that, boy, was I in for a shock when I thought, hey, I've been spiritual for a long time. You may not know this about me, and you may be in these shoes right now, but I've had a lot of grief in my life and loss. And I started this journey mid-90s with a fear of dying. I had worked in nursing homes as a young person, and that's how I got my start as a chef, actually, cooking in nursing homes. But I dealt with a lot of death. And so I don't know if that is what gave me the fear of dying, but that started me on this whole journey of, is there evidence of the afterlife? And somewhere along that journey, I had taken a course out in California. It was called Power and Contribution. It was, who are you meant to be for the world, and having a life that works, right? And we all want to have a life that works. So I really didn't know exactly what this course was all about, but I really liked the company that had taught these courses, and I'd taken all their other courses, just not this one. So there was me, fresh-faced. At that point, I had been doing some investigation about the afterlife. I'd taken a couple medium courses. I had taken weekend workshop on electronic voice phenomena and captured voices from the other side. But I kept this all very, very secret. So in this class in California, this is the year 2002, we all had to create what's called an impossible promise. And the reason, they said, is if you can look at giving your life for a purpose, your life will work out. Because when you focus on others, by nature, life is easier for you. You know, the things that happen in our life are less significant when we have our eyes on other people. So I've always been someone who loves to share. I do. I love to share, whether it's chocolate, whether it's a joke, whatever it is, a hug. I do love to share. And so we had to create this impossible promise. We had to pick a date somewhere out in the future. Why they're called them impossible is people pick things like making all the water in the world clean to drink, and ending homelessness, and making sure every child in the world has shoes. It seems pretty impossible to get to absolutely every one, but making that bold declaration, you would do a heck of a lot more than if you made no declaration at all. So I thought, what the heck am I going to make as a declaration? So they said, look at what it is you've already been doing. Look at what you've been passionate about. Look at the people in your life and how you interact with them. You know, what are you doing? What are you passionate about? Who have you been being? And I thought, well, I like researching this afterlife business. You know, it's made me feel better. But deep inside, you guys, it was a long time before I opened my mouth and told people about it, because I was too afraid what people would think of me. Imagine that. Imagine that. So in the privacy of one of these small breakout groups, I wrote down on my piece of paper, because I thought I'll go with this afterlife theme, not ever expecting that I would act on it or do anything about it, because I was busy working. I said, by the year 2027, all people will know that we don't die and that we are souls having a human experience. I said that. Went on the piece of paper. That course was over. That notebook went in a drawer. I don't even know where that notebook is. To me, it was long forgotten. As time went on, I continued to look for my evidence of the afterlife because I was passionate about it. And I found so many good things. And all I wanted to do at that point was share. There was this tipping point where it's like I had enough and I was comfortable with sharing. And then my dad passed in 2010. My dad passed May 2010. Oh, it's going on the anniversary, isn't it? Yes. And through the grief and the hardships, not only did I really look more into the world of the afterlife, but also about being human, about grief, and everything within me I had to share with other people. Because that's one thing we all have in common, is we have love and we have loss. So everything got put on loudspeaker. Now, what is it we're doing today? Well, we have a Sunday gathering, don't we, with hundreds of people who attend. We have all these beautiful online courses. I have written a book with the title, We Don't Die. Now over 500 episodes of episodes out there in the world. 2027 is only a few years away. I've got goosebumps right now because did I pick that promise? Or was I tapping into something greater? Was I meant to bloom this way? This past fall, I bought a whole bunch of bulbs, daffodils and tulips and hyacinths and whatever else goes. I planted them all around this house. Well, the story is kind of cute because right now everything should be blooming, but the little critters have eaten all of them, just about all of them. So all the green is coming out, but the flowers are gone. Those bulbs within them, just like you and I, we have potential. I think we can choose what we want to bloom into. I really do. But I do believe there's a part of our spirit that knows. I don't know. But I had that moment this past week when I thought, we're 4 years away from 2027. Oh my gosh, I thought that in 2002. Never having any evidence or really any belief that this was my passion and this is what I was to do. So, as that quote said, find your passion. You don't really have to go looking for it. Who have you been being? Who do you like to hang around with? What do you like to talk about? How do you like to serve other people? And in that is that magic recipe for who you are. Just add a little more sunshine and a little more water to it. Exercise it a little. Be with friends that you can talk the same language. And my friend, you are spiritual. You're on your path. It's within you. We have everything we need, and we are each one of a kind. But I wanted to share that story with you because looking back at that girl who had no evidence or any dream of fulfilling on that, and look what it is that I'm doing right now. It's crazy. So me, who never felt like I was connected in any way to anything divine, now I can't help but think we all are. We're all connected to that light, each and every one of us. So when we all transition to the other side, we can tell each other stories about how we bloomed and what we did and share. And hopefully we can do that too while we're here on Earth. At one of our live events, I know Kerry, Phil, and Scott will be traveling. But until then, guys, we have our Sunday gathering. And with that, we like to celebrate the reality of the afterlife. Kerry and Phil are our demonstrating mediums here today, and they're our tutors as well for our evidential medium classes and more. And they, along with Darren and I, we volunteer our time here because this is how we bloom and this is the language we love to speak. But Kerry and Phil are our mediums. They've trained many years, they've taught many years. They have a commitment to both sides of the veil, as they say. You know, we get to live and breathe and talk to each other. Our friends in the unseen world no longer have that voice. You know, certainly they can show up in our dreams. They can give us those gentle little nudges and memories that they're around us, but they don't have that voice. So evidential mediumship is giving that voice once again to our loved ones. So the people in the spirit world have this handled. They know who's going to come through. I know we've got many new folks here for the very first time. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what happens during our medium demonstration. The spirit world folks will come to Kerry and Phil and plant some images and thoughts and feelings and maybe tastes and smells and sounds, who knows, within their being, recalling on some of their memories. They trust that the information that's coming through is from a loved one in the spirit world. When I say a loved one, it could be a friend, it could be a family member. Sometimes it's people a little bit distant, but that were part of our life. They will give a few initial bits of information about this person. Maybe if it was a male or female, mom or dad, who knows? But we want you to listen in, be on the edge of your seat for this. The spirit world know exactly who's in our Sunday gathering today. They have intelligence far surpassing what we humans do. So even though you may think it's just you looking at your iPad or your computer or phone, you are surrounded by loved ones so happy that you're here, and they are working with a greater intelligence somehow that some members of our community will receive messages. If you can recognize every bit of information that Kerry and Phil say in the initial statements, we want you to press your raise hand button. So if you are new to this or you just want to give your finger a little workout, go find that raise hand button on your device and press it, just so you know how it works. And on my side, I see all these hands light up, virtual hands. And now it should say lower hand. So you want to go and press lower hand. And Geraldine, I know you're putting a message in the box, so I'll take a look on that for a second, but we can definitely see you here. We can't see you, we just see your names, okay? Sometimes it takes a minute or two to identify who the person is that the friend in the afterlife is here for. But when we do, I will press a button on my side that will come across that host would like you to unmute, and you'll see where you can press the button. We don't need to see you, only your voice. Kerry and Phil will deliver some information, and all we need from you is yes, no, or I don't know. Please do not divulge any personal information at all. Let them do the work so everyone knows they are in communication with the person in the unseen world. For everyone else, please listen in as if this message is for you. As you've heard Kerry, Phil, Darren, and I talk today, we're just 4 people talking on behalf of 200 people that are in our Sunday gathering today. Our spirit world folks, they're smart, because it just so happens very often that we hear just how close they are. Or there's a message that comes through and you say, oh, you know what? I needed that too. There is a great intelligence going on here. Don't worry if your loved one doesn't come through. Not everyone can. They don't just show up on our Sunday gatherings, folks. Our loved ones have lives to live in the spirit world. They absolutely do. But they're with us. They're just a thought away. Really, they are. So they're very much a part of our everyday life. And this actually, you get to see just how close they are in our demonstration of mediumship. So with that, we love to play a happy song. And it's just time to feel good. You might want to reflect on some of the things you've heard today, or you might want to just envision your loved ones packed in the room around you. And again, sing it if you know it. Just feel good, rejoice, and then we'll come back with our demonstration of mediumship. Beautiful. We want you to have it all. We do. Hello, Phil.
Hello, Miss Sandra. How are you doing? You well?
I am very well, thank you.
Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. It's always good to be here, sort of thing. And I'm waffling because I'm just not in touch with the spirit world yet. So I have to waffle. It's just one of those, as mediums, we live on the edge of the seat because we never know who's going to come forward, sort of thing. But we'll see what happens. So hello to you, ladies and gentlemen out there. It's always a pleasure to be here and speak and converse with you all. As Sandra's given you those lovely instructions what to do, let's see what happens. Okay, so as I become aware of the spirit world, I know here I want to talk about a father in the spirit world who would have, and I'm sure it's a horse and cart, so I know there would be a memory of father having a horse and cart, and I'm not sure if it's called a trap or something like that, because I know here I've got memories, and there should be memories with father. The person I want to talk to would have memories of being on that cart as well.
Okay, thank you. A horse and cart with dad. All right, ladies and gentlemen, think back, maybe not too far back. And if you can understand that information, raise your hand. Well, we have Albert with his hand raised. Albert, if you could press your unmute button. Hello? Hello?
Hello, Albert.
Can you hear me?
Oh, let me turn my sound up. I can just hear a faint whisper in the background. Can you speak again for me, Albert?
I'm kind of losing my voice today, so.
Oh, okay, right. Okay, fine. Okay. So you understand father in the spirit world, and there will be a memory of like a horse and cart, and you've been on that horse and cart as well.
Yes.
Good. Would you understand where your dad loved nothing more to pass time than being on that horse and cart, almost like it's a passion and a hobby?
Yes.
Because it just feels here, Albert, that it's almost that freedom I get with it. And he would have it's almost what I want to say, Dad wanted to make the most of life as well.
Yes.
And when I say that, it's almost where he had, bear with me, there must have been trips, long trips at weekends on that horse and cart. Do you understand, Albert?
Maybe, yes.
Maybe, bear with me. There should be memories where bear with me, where we used to live near quite rural fields, and where we used to go on treks through the fields and lanes. That's fine, because that's what I want, because I know it happens at weekends. And it's almost where I said it's Dad's favourite pastime, because Dad would have liked the different seasons of the year.
Yeah.
And if I said that there's no real bad weather, he would go out in all kinds of bear with me, all kinds of weathers. He just got dressed appropriately. Because I know that it's almost like he just loves to be outdoors. But I feel as well that your dad seemed to be at his happiest when he was looking after those horses.
Yes.
Because I want to say they're well groomed, and I also know that they were well tended for. There must be memories where you saw Dad going out to tend to those horses late at night. And I want to say first thing in the morning as well. And if I'm right here, Albert, you used to help out.
Yes.
And when I say help out, you must have mucked the horses out.
Yes.
Would I be right in saying that Dad was quite a nurturer? He would explain why he was doing things with the horses and how he did it.
No.
Bear with me. Thank you. If I said, I'm going to just change that ever so slightly, he could be quite quiet at times.
Yes.
Because, and he got you to do little jobs almost in order.
Yes.
Because that's the way I want to say he nurtured. But with the horse and cart, he must have done either favors or errands for neighbors as well. Because I know there's more to just going out on the cart. I feel it was one of his favorite modes of transport, and he would actually go to neighbors and things. There must also be a memory, Albert, with your dad and you on the cart where we stopped at a field where there was horses in.
Yes.
Because I know Dad would take little bits of apples and different things to feed those horses. You don't, you said, okay, I think you said no there. But would you understand then if it's not your dad, you must have done this yourself at some time?
Yes.
That's fine, because I cannot change what I'm seeing, so it has to be you. But I know, Albert, your dad is a man that does things. You also have a sister in the spirit world, Albert. And would I be right in saying that she passed with cancer?
Yes.
And would I be right in saying out of all, and mum's in the spirit world as well?
Yes.
And I want to say that mum, dad and sister are all together. And I also believe that you've been talking to all three of them.
Yes.
And I know bear with me 1 second. With your mum, she was a very strong-minded lady.
Yes.
And I know she could be quite opinionated. Maybe, bear with me. She had a way of doing things and she liked them doing correctly.
Yes.
Yep. And I also know your sister is a strong personality as well.
Yes.
And a way your sister looked after you after mum and dad had gone.
Yes.
But I also know you looked after sister while she was ill.
Yes.
And I know they all three of them come to look after you now to try and bring you that upliftment. But it's dad's contact, because it's almost like dad's taking me down memory lane with the horses and getting out and taking time out. And it feels like I want to be clearing my mind with you, Albert. Okay, and I know that's why dad's come forward. So I'm going to leave those memories with you, but know that all three of them are with you and very much trying to support you and get you through this period. I'm going to leave that with you. I can hardly hear you, but thank you, Albert.
Yes, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Albert. Thank you, Phil.
Okay, good. Okay. Okay, so I do believe I've got two ladies with me, and I do believe I have Elizabeth, and I also have the name of Margaret. I do feel they're sisters, and I do get the impression that they're aunties as well. But it's the Elizabeth I want to go to, because I feel that she was a lady who lived on her own at the end. I feel her husband passed before her, but I get the impression with Elizabeth that she used to love to write letters. And when I say letters, to those you post, it's almost like an ancient art that we've lost today, isn't it?
It is. All right. Who can understand this information? Press your raise hand button. Now, Geraldine, your hand went up quick and went down. I don't know if that was by accident or not, but it is down. Phil, we have Doris with her hand raised. Let me just press a button. And Doris, you should be able to see your unmute button there.
Hello, Doris. More calling Mindy. Hello, Doris.
Oh, her hand went down, Phil. I think it
That's
might
fine.
have been by accident.
That's fine.
All right, no problem.
Okay, so we had two people put their hands up, but they put their hands down. That's absolutely fine. Okay. If I've got the relationships wrong, but those two names should be right, and I feel it's the Elizabeth I want to talk to. Sorry, not talk to. It feels like it's the Elizabeth I want to talk of. Because I know that she's that independent lady, and I also know with her, she wrote those letters as well. And I get the impression those letters, or one of those letters, should be still here. Are you getting ready to work, Miss McClure?
All right, there are no hands up just yet. This is when we have to do some of this out of the box thinking and think way back. It might not be something you readily pull up, but Geraldine's hand has gone back up, Phil.
That's fine.
Geraldine, can you press your unmute button? Hi, Geraldine.
Hi.
Hello, Geraldine. Do you understand what I've said?
Yes, it's my grandmother.
Oh, it's your grandmother, right?
Yes, her name was
Sorry.
Elizabeth Margaret.
Okay. I thought I had the two. I thought it was two ladies, because it's Elizabeth Margaret, right? Okay.
Okay.
Would you understand though what I said about the letters?
That's the only thing throwing me, because I was the youngest of the family, so I don't know about letters.
Okay. Then I want to look at something just to make sure I'm with you.
Okay.
Would you have correspondence from your grandmother, or letters or paperwork to do with her?
Not her, no.
Not her. Then bear, because I did feel I had two people.
Yes, that's why I was putting it down and putting it up.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Let me work with it. Let's just say, then would I be right in saying, Geraldine, you also have mother in the spirit world?
Yes,
And you have correspondence of mothers?
absolutely.
That's fine, because I know I questioned it and I thought, okay, no, I
Yeah.
still feel I've got two ladies. So it's grandmother that was Elizabeth Margaret. That's fine, okay.
Right.
But then would you know with your grandmother Elizabeth that she was quite strong-minded?
Oh, yeah.
That's fine. And what she said went.
Oh, yeah.
Because it feels like I can't change anything, so I know here. But there must be either letters you have still of your mother's. Yes.
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay. And when I say not just paperwork, I want to talk about handwritten letters.
Yes.
That's because I know they're more personal with that. And would you understand where your mum could be quite strict? Please say no, if it's not correct.
No.
If I'm going to just look at this, she was quite disciplined, though, in the way that she did things.
Yes.
Because I know that's what I want to be with the strict. It's that discipline that I want to say.
Mhm.
But I also know she knew her own mind as well.
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
Okay. And I want to also say with your mother that she did things her own way, and not everyone in the family agreed with it.
Yes. That's
Because
true.
I want to say she had her opinion of life, she had her perception of life, and she stuck to her own guns. And I know people questioned her at times over it.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. But I also feel here those letters that you have must have been from mother to you.
Yes.
Because I know in those letters she expressed how she felt about you as well.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
because I know all I can see is those last few lines where it's a case of I love you. So I know here she expressed that love as well. But would I also be right in saying that you lived a distance away from mum at one time as well?
Yes.
Because I know this is why letters were exchanged, but would I also be right in saying you didn't get to say your goodbyes to mum?
No, I did.
You did. Bear with me. No, there's something where I said your mum could be quite disciplined. She's come back at me here. It's almost where something wasn't either fully talked about or finished, because I know there's something where we never got those last words.
Yeah, that's true.
That's because I know there's something here, because I know, and would I be right, Geraldine, there was times where you didn't always see eye to eye with your mum?
Absolutely.
Because I know she's holding her hand up, and this is one of those occasions, and your mum never really admitted when she got things wrong, did she?
No, she didn't.
Because I know she's holding her hand up and saying, I did get things wrong, and I need to get these words out of my, off her chest. I know there was a time where she didn't support you, understand?
Understood, yes.
And I know she says I was completely wrong in that situation. And I know it's very personal because I can feel it from her. So I'm not going to open that up. But again, here, she makes me aware of that and the words of sorry that I hear as well. She also was a lady that wouldn't speak about things if she didn't want to either.
Yes.
I also would be right, though, saying you still have photographs of your mum, old black and white ones.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to say you should have some when she was a child as well.
Yes.
And I know just recently, within the last quite recent time, you've been looking at some of these photographs.
Yes, I have.
Because it's her way of saying, I am there with you. Because you've questioned if she's around, and I want to say she's never left your side, and ever since she's passed, she's been trying to make up with things as well. You've still kept birthday cards and things from her.
Yes, I have, yeah.
And I know you've got a collection of photographs and letters that should combine together.
Yeah.
Okay. Because it feels like I'm telling you a story of what's happening, but I've sent you photographs as well. So I know that's how you and your mum communicated through time. Thank you. And would I be right in saying your mum used to love music as well?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
And she had the old-fashioned, she must have kept the old-fashioned where she could read music.
Yes.
Because I keep on seeing the notes. There's a name for it, but it's just eluded my mind while I'm with her. But I know here. But would I also be right in saying she loved the piano as well?
Yes.
Because I can just hear the piano music, but I can see the fingers on it as well. And I know here. And would I be right in saying she liked the old-fashioned hymns?
Yes.
Because I know I'm going back to the healing hymn and make me a channel of your peace. So there must be a memory or a knowledge. She had a faith and went to church.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Because I want to be singing that. And would I be right in saying what we're doing here is not something she would enter into?
Not until the very end. I kind of opened her mind up a little, but not.
Okay, but I know she's loving it now. She's loving that communication. And I know, Geraldine, sometimes you get little things in your mind, like little songs and things, and you just, and I know that's your mum inspiring you through those songs. So I'm going to leave your mum's love, your grandmother, Elizabeth Margaret. And the lady just shouted out by the name of Joyce to you as well.
Joyce. I'll have to think of it.
Okay, would I be right in saying that you sometimes went to church with your mum?
Oh, yeah.
Because I know Joyce makes me feel like she was part of the congregation and your mum knew her. So I know there's friends with your mum as well. Oh, sure. And also I'm seeing a Labrador door as well. A Labrador. Labradoodle doggy, a Labrador. There we go. See how our minds completely go. That's fine.
I'm surrounded by them.
Well, you can keep them. Okay. That's fine. And I know you're saying you're surrounded by them. But would I be right in saying you took strays in as well?
No, that was my sister.
That's your sister, because I know I've got other dogs here. There are bits and bats of different.
Oh, those are her dogs. That's my sister's dog.
That's fine. Okay. So I'm going to leave all that with you, Geraldine, and say thank you for allowing me to do that. Okay.
Thank you, Phil.
That's a pleasure.
Thank you so
That's
much.
a pleasure. Good. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to hand over to the wonderful Sandra. Sandra, there we go. You can see I'm just losing it. Spirituality's taking over.
You've lost it, but we love you anyways, Phil. No, thank you very much, Phil, for your commitment, your love. And we also have our special love, Kerry, that is next on the scene. Our loved ones are so close, our friends. They really are. Love never dies, and we will see them again.
Hello, thank you very much. Well done.
You can call me Darren now.
I know. Hello, Darren. Hi, Phil. Soon as we're getting all the names wrong. It is an absolute pleasure to be here and be able to work on behalf of the spirit world. I actually feel as if whilst I was sitting there and Phil was getting his words completely, his names completely wrong, I actually feel like I have a wife. And I know as I have a wife coming with me, she found Phil getting the words and the names incorrect extremely funny. And I know that I'm looking for a husband who would have nursed me and looked after me towards the end of my life. That makes sense to somebody in our audience, Sandra.
Thank you, Kerry. All right, friends, who understands this information? I do believe we have Pete here with us. Pete?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah.
Is this for you?
Yeah.
Hi, Pete. You understand wife in the spirit world,
Yes.
and you understand that you would have nursed her towards the end of her life.
Yes.
She would have had an incredible sense of humor, though,
Yes, we did have.
because as Phil was getting his words wrong, she was having a real giggling fit with it.
Yeah, I'm sure she would have done.
I know that there would have been times, particularly towards the end, Pete, where your wife would have got quite frustrated and cross with you.
Well, possibly. I can't remember that, but
Okay, then if that's not correct, Pete, I get the sense that your wife could have at times been very, very short-tempered with people in the family when they were pulling their weight.
yes, I think that she could be, yeah, for sure.
Because I get the sense that if that's not correct, Pete, I can't go too far from it. After your wife's passing, Pete, you would understand why your wife would have had quite a strong opinion that things weren't exactly as she wanted them to be.
Yes.
Okay, because I know I can't change your wife being quite short and frustrated, because for such a lovely lady, I know that she's a little bit short here. I know too that she would have had a grace with her, that there was no airs and graces with her. It was actually who she is.
Yeah.
I know within her community, within your community, Pete, there would have been times where you and her would walk down the street and you would have known everybody within that community.
Depends where we were, yeah.
Oh, then you would have lived somewhere where the village was almost just one street.
Yes.
And the place where you lived and she passed, there must have been people from that village came to her funeral.
Yes.
And you would know where, after she passed, where the car she was driving in, passed through that village?
I don't think so on that one.
Okay, then you must have passed through that village fairly soon after your wife had passed.
Oh, yes.
Okay, because I know she gives me this impression of going through that village with you. She wasn't physically here, but she was spiritually with you. I know you and her must have had, every husband and wife has times together, but I know there are such dear memories, and you have been looking at photographs of the family very recently.
Pictures. Yeah. Yeah.
And as you were looking through those pictures, I know you're there, Susan, but I know that you have such through Pete, you have such an affinity with Pete's wife.
Yes.
Because in actual fact, you must have a very similar sense of humor, which is her words are a bit twisted.
Possibly.
Because it's the things that she would find funny, you're finding funny, but there is a twist to it, because it is a sense of finding the fun in the things that were a little bit unfortunate.
Yes, I understand.
And you, Susan, you must also know people who knew Pete's first wife.
That's right.
Because she's given me this impression of you having exchanges, and you must have, because I know she wants to speak with yourself, Susan, as well. You must have overheard somebody speaking about her and spoke on her behalf to defend her.
I've heard that a few times, yes.
Okay, it's her way of saying, go girl.
Yeah,
As she would,
yeah.
I also get the sense with her, Pete, that there is such an appreciation for what you have done on behalf of, and I have to say, all the family. Because I feel like families have come together, and she is now part of a greater family, which she's extremely proud of.
Thank you. That's lovely.
And I know there has been, I don't know very much about you, Susan and Pete, but she gives me this impression of there being a little soul born to this world since her passing. And I know she's been in the spirit world some time, but very recently there must be a little soul born to this world.
No, I don't know about that.
No, I'm not sure about that either.
Okay. I don't want to get into the realms of prediction. So I know this little soul has already joined. So can you cast your mind back to the last little soul that came into the family? Because I know she's saying she got the first hug. That doesn't make sense.
No, not directly, no.
You can, I'm going to leave, I don't leave very many things with very many people, but I do feel that there's a little soul come into the world that she wants to acknowledge she got the first hug. So you're either going to find out about it. The baby is already here. I'm not predicting, don't worry, there's going to be no people joining us. It's unknown at this moment. But when that happens, Pete or Sue, please let me know.
Is it human or animal? The soul?
I do get the sense of it being human.
Human, yeah, okay.
Okay. Please know that this is her way, Pete, of saying hi and thank you for not forgetting about me. And to Susan, thank you for allowing me to be part of your family unit. It's incredibly important to her.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for allowing me to do that. Thanks, Susan and Pete.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Now, I know I've just had wife, but I do feel I now have husband. And I feel that husband would have had an issue with organs inside his body. It feels like cancer in the torso. And it feels as if he would have had major coughing fits. And I do feel that this would have been created or caused by a work situation. I feel like he's worked in a certain place, and this has had an effect on his lungs and his internal organs. This makes sense to somebody in our audience.
Thank you, Kerry. All right, friends, this makes sense to you. Go ahead and press your raise hand button. Okay, we have Lee. Lee, if you could find and press your unmute button there.
Yes, hello.
Hello, nice to have you with us.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Hi, Lee. You understand husband in the spirit world?
Well, yes, I do. He was my common law husband, if that counts.
Okay, that absolutely counts. Absolutely. You understand him having these severe coughing fits?
Yes, he had lung cancer.
Okay, because I feel like I can't get my breath and I need to get that out, and then you'll be able to let go of it. And I get the sense with him, he is a gentleman.
Yes.
In every sense of the word.
Well,
let me work with it. I know that I have a sense with him. Remember, they show us their good parts to start with, Lee.
yes, yes. Okay.
Because I know Lee gives me the sense of being like my husband here, of being a gentleman. But I do know that he had a real side of him where if there was an injustice or if there was somebody that was not being treated fairly, he would want to intervene.
Yes.
And I get the sense, Lee, with your husband too, that he had this way about him of just making himself known when he was with people.
Yes.
It's like, I don't need to be introduced. I'm just here. I get the sense with him too, Lee, as I work with him in this way, that he didn't just have a presence. He wasn't, as my husband is, a slight man. He had a bit of bulk about him.
Yes.
And I know he would have this way of being wanting to be the center of attention, but not meaning it in any malice way.
Yes.
And you would have a memory, Lee, of being at I don't know which game it is, I just see the audience, a baseball game with him.
Not baseball.
Where you would know that you had been in the audience of a large sports arena place.
Yes, yes.
And he would be speaking very loudly to the team.
To the team. I don't remember that.
Then he must have had very firm opinions about what was and what wasn't good or bad on the pitch or the field.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Because I hear him involved, I'll put it that way.
Yes, definitely.
And this must have been a regular occurrence, but I do know he would have watched this from his home as well.
Yes.
And I know you would have been not in the room with him. You would have been elsewhere and you'd be able to hear him in the other room.
Yes.
And I know he gives me this impression of you having heard games like that happening and almost missing hearing or imagining what he'd be doing if he were in the other room.
Yes.
And I have to say, whilst he was watching those games, he would have a set routine about what he would eat and what he would drink.
Oh, I can't say yes to that.
Okay, then there must have, you would know a time where you watched the game and there would be more than just him in the room.
No, he was usually alone.
Then if I'm not correct with that, Lee, just before your husband, your common law husband passed, he feels like husband, you would know where there was a large gathering at your home.
Just before, no, that's not, no.
Okay.
You know,
I get this, or I get the sense that he wants to acknowledge people being at the home and you being there.
well, it wasn't at home. It was at hospice, though, at a different location.
But everybody was there with him.
There were a lot of people there. Yes.
Oh, because I do feel a large gathering of people around about him. Please know that he appreciates everything you did for him, everything you organized, and everything you went out of your way to do and protect him from.
Okay.
Those last words are important somehow.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, Lee, I'm going to leave your husband's love with you, your common law husband. It feels like husband.
Yes. Yeah. We referred to each other as husband and wife.
He feels like husband. Thank you very much for allowing me to for you,
Thank
Lee.
you. Thank you so much. It means so much. You know that.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. It is an absolute pleasure to be able to work on behalf of the spirit world. And it never grows dim working with the spirit world. Darren, Sandra, Phil, and myself all know that doing what we do here, as Sandra highlighted earlier on, makes it all worthwhile.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kerry. And I have a little challenge for everybody coming up this week. This is not the words of the week, but this is something that just came to my mind. We all want to have that contact, don't we, on our Sundays? Well, in a couple weeks, Kerry and Phil start their next medium class. It's Wednesday, the 26th, the next level 1. And you can find out how our souls communicate. But this is the challenge. Think about if you were in the spirit world right now and you really want to get a message to your loved one. You're right next to them and saying, I'm right here. What memories would you give them? What shared occasions? What things about yourself? Many people think when we transition to the other side, we have all the knowledge in the universe. We do not. We are still beings. We were still souls. We're still us. They do everything they can to put these thoughts and feelings into Kerry and Phil. But what we don't realize is most of the time they're doing that to us too. But we chalk it up to our imagination, don't we? Yeah, we do. And then maybe we wait to the Sunday gathering and maybe they'll come through. How about this week? We do to the spirit world what they're doing to us. Whether you want to find a good picture of them or not, or you just want to think of some shared memories and really think of those feelings, think of the joy, think of the love, think of whether it's a baseball game or football game or whatever that was, think of things and let your loved one know you're sending that out to them. And then just be still. Pay attention to what may come back to you. Songs, memories, feelings, smells, who knows? I'm so proud that Kerry and Phil do the medium classes. And like I said, they start in about a week and a half's time, because you get to know how our souls communicate, not only giving information, but receiving information. It's not up here is what I can tell you. Pig's place in your gut, your belly. Well, they describe it better. These classes are open for anyone, no matter what your level of experience are. And if you can't join live, you can join them by the replay. And we have a wonderful Facebook group where you can practice with other people. So that's coming up the 26th. It's a Wednesday. That's our level 1 mediumship class. We have a level 2 mediumship class for students that are more practiced in this as well. And then on Tuesdays, we have a mentoring group with Kerry and Phil as well. You can find out the details to those at wedon'tdie.com. Just click on the store page or the at-home courses page. Of course, we've got a beautiful class with our friend Scott Milligan on Mondays. I am just about to launch the May class. You won't find that on the website yet. Also on Tuesdays with him, he offers 2 sitting in the power hours. We have a Friday demonstration of trance mediumship, along with a healing segment that's beautiful. Our friends Mitch and Kath Shirley will be back on the 25th of April doing a free grief cafe. If you are somebody, I think that club of grief is probably what joined us here, and they are advanced grief recovery specialists and mediums, but they talk about grief, and it's a closed place that it is not recorded, and it's a good place to share as well. Our tutors are hitting the road. You can catch Kerry and Phil coming up. They will be traveling to Ohio. They're going to go to New Mexico. They'll be New York and Toronto the end of the year. They've got other things coming up. So you want to be sure to check the website as well. Because as people know who just attended their class in Vancouver, it was pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. The last thing I want to say is thank you for your donations. If you're somebody who'd like to make a donation to our Sunday gathering, you can. Just go to wedon'tdie.com, click on the Sunday gathering page, and there's a button there if you'd like to donate. It helps us keep going. Keep on keeping on. So that's it from me. Thank you. I'm going to pass it over to Phil.
Thank you, Sandra, for I got your name right this time as well. It shows when we're working mediumistically, their mind's in that altered place sort of thing, because once we come back, we make a mess of everything. But I want to repeat a few things, the words of the week, because as we found out, spirituality is as much as an individual thing as we can try and describe it. So I need you to live your life to the absolute full. Have fun, take care, have understanding, empathy, compassion, absolutely everything, okay? Because that's who you truly are. Don't make excuses for who you are, but live that life and do things your way. Just because it's different from somebody else doesn't mean that it's wrong. Being spiritual means you're doing things in a way that expresses who you are. So the more that we can do that, what a wonderful world it will be. And I'm not going into song titles either, but it's a case of, if we can make a difference for self, and it's a simple thing really, if we can make a difference for self, we can make a difference for other people. Because when you see somebody's happy, what happens? You smile. So when you listen to Sandra talk, she's always smiling when she's talking. You can't help but smile yourself and be engaging. So remember, let that light shine so brightly, and let that line that you leave behind leave a path for others to walk. Thank you for listening.
Wonderful words. Thank you for that, Phil. And thank you to all of you for joining us week in and week out. Now, if you'd all like to close your eyes and join me for the closing prayer. We'd like to thank our friends, brothers and sisters from across the globe for coming together here today and uniting together as one and allowing these Sunday gatherings to take place. And for being part of this unique experience. For that, we are truly grateful. We express our sincere thanks and gratitude to our friends, helpers and loved ones of that world we call unseen, for being here week in and week out and allowing these Sunday gatherings to take place. For that, we are eternally grateful. For allowing us to hear your thoughts and words that are shared here week in and week out, which brings us all those moments of healing, joy and upliftment. And for allowing us to immerse ourselves in that unconditional love and that healing balm, which will be etched in our hearts and minds forever, that we can take away with us at the end of this Sunday gathering. We'd like to thank you for giving us the opportunity to work side by side with your world. Each and every one of us deemed as an absolute joy and a privilege, and we do this to the best of our ability and understanding, and we truly hope we've made you proud. As we leave this Sunday gathering today and allow the sun to set on this day, we go forward to a new week and a new day, continuing down our pathways, creating our own journeys, and then allowing our own spirituality to grow and develop further, going forward in the knowledge and comfort to know that you continually walk by our side, guiding us, helping us, and inspiring us to be the best that we can be. And we ask that this week the healing balm continues to flourish to all four corners of our land, bringing that joy, that love, and that healing to all those that may be in need at this time. Until we meet again, my friends. Amen.
Thank you very much, Darren. And thank you, Kerry and Phil, and you at home or wherever you are. Thank you. And to our loved ones in the spirit world, thank you. As we go into our closing song, it's not too early to sign up for our next week's Sunday gathering when Darren will pick the theme and the music. So the chat box is open. And as our closing song is playing, if you want to give us a few words, let us know how today was for you. We'd love to hear it. Okay, here's our closing song. Beautiful last song. Thank you, everybody. Let me put all four of us on screen so you can see us, and we'll send you love. You can send us love. Thank you for every message in the chat box. We can't write back to you because we're too busy here, but we read every single one. We absolutely do. So we love you. Go make it a great week, okay? Go look up spirituality in the dictionary if you want. You don't have to. Just go be you. Bye, everyone.